Yeah, so welcome everybody. My name's Alexis Romero. I'm going to kind of play MC here today. And today we're talking about GovCon trade shows and the four-phase blueprint for success. Uh, I am representing Trident Proposal Management, and we'll get into intros, but we're working here today with GA Bartick in partnership with R3 Consultants. So with that, Rebecca, let's get going and move on to next slide, please. We're going to kick off with introductions. As I said, I'm going to play MC today. My name is Alexis Romero. I am one of the GovCon consultants and orals coaches with Trident Proposal Management. I also happen to be the event manager for the company. I do have a background in events, so this is one of my favorite topics. Believe it or not, I love conventions, conferences, and trade shows. I get really excited about it. A little bit about me and my background. I do have 26 years of experience combined in sales, nonprofit fundraising, human operations training, and business development for GovCon. Specifically, one of the things my favorite part of my job is really helping people and companies tell their story in a way that resonates and leads to business partnership and growth. I really think if you make an appealing, genuine statement about who you are and how you want to help, you can grow your business. A little bit about Trident Proposal Management. We're a small business here in San Diego, and basically what we do is full service business development support for GovCon, either federal, state, or local. But that means business intelligence, market research, pipelines. We can help with your capture management. Absolutely, we can help with every aspect of a proposal, a little bit, all of it, anything in between, help manage that process. We do a lot of training and advisory. We do like webinars like these, and then we do the executive and presentation coaching. One of my big jobs right now is doing a lot of coaching for oral sections or in proposals. And then, of course, we do this kind of event support. So we'll get a little bit into that later about how we can help people prepare and execute for events, which, as I'll say later on, are part of your business development strategy. Okay, with that, who do we help? Any company, any size, from the small company who's just a couple of folks to the very, very large Fortune 50s that are in our industry. So if you fall anywhere in between, we can help you. And with that, I am going to hand it over to GA, who I'm so happy is here. I really enjoy his conversations. And let me just say, anytime I'm listening to one of his presentations, I'm like, this guy knows what he's talking about. So the fact that he's here talking with us today is really exciting. GA, over to you.
All right, I appreciate that, and welcome everybody. And yes, I get just a bit passionate about communication. And so if you just hit the next slide, if you'd be so kind. And thinking about what our role is when we are going to conferences, whether we have a booth or not, how do we make our communication skills our competitive advantage? That's really what it's all about. This whole program is about. And so I really started my career off at Nordstrom and really understood and learned what the customer experience is all about and how you create a great customer experience. And then how, after 11 years as an executive there, to be honest, I failed miserably in sales because I was simply winging it on my gift of gab. I mean, those are my initials, GAB. And as you can tell, my obvious good looks. And I realized that wasn't good enough. So any of you out there ever have a paper route? Think about a paper route. How old are most people that have a paper route? 10, 12 years old? Well, true story, folks. I was 31 years old. I just lost my fourth job in a little over 3.5 years because I could not sell. I was simply winging it. And so I was reading every book out there. Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Gitomer. They all kind of had tips and tricks, but nothing said, here's the process. So I started studying sales. I started studying leadership. And I brought my older brother, who's a researcher out of Columbia University. And over about a 4.5-year period, we did about 6,000 interviews, a little over 33,000 pages of notes. I ended up writing a best-selling book called Silver Bullet Selling. 6 critical steps to open up more relationships and closing more sales. But it's not really a sales book. It's about creating relationships. And that's really what I'm all about, is about how do you communicate in a very quick fashion when you are at your booth, when a prospect walks up, think about it, their resistance is really high. They're afraid if I start talking to you, you're going to sell me something. So there's lots of little nuances in what you say and how you say it that can either increase or decrease their resistance and their receptivity to your message. So that's really what I've been studying. And we get told all the time that this R3, I mean, 5 of the Fortune 50 companies use our stuff. All of Google for the last 15 years, all their sales and their leadership's all my stuff. I just got back from Hong Kong and Vietnam doing a big piece for Google. Been in 53 different Google offices, Merrill Lynch, DirecTV. Also helped a lot of companies win government contracts too, by again helping them create success on purpose. And that's what this whole thing's about. Think about it right now. If your next conference, what's the total spend that your company is going to spend on the conference? Think about if you have a booth, what the booth itself, just the construction of the booth, shipping the booth, getting it built, the actual fee for the conference, all the people there. Think about that. That can easily be 50, 100 grand, no problem, just like that. And how are you truly maximizing the ROI? That's what this 4-phase approach is all about. And so do a ton of this stuff, love it. But when I'm not doing this, you can find me on my Harley, or I'm addicted, like many people are, in the world of pickleball. So let's dive in. Let's talk about what are the issues, what are some of the problems, Alexis, that people are faced right now when they are looking at and working at conferences.
Let's do it. But first, let me just kind of do a quick break here. You might have noticed the slide issue we had. I just want to get a thumbs up, Morgan. Are we good to go for you to navigate slides from here on out?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So let's go to the next slide. And while Morgan does that, I do want to say, I know that GA has his, background in sales starting with Nordstrom, the company. And we have that in common because that was one of my first jobs, in retail and sales back in the day. But one of the things that I really liked about that job is that it really taught me the fundamentals about how to really sell and provide really good customer service. And I think it all ties back to this one part about networking, trade shows, et cetera. It's really how you show up for these things and how you really try to connect with people and being polite and, doing that whole customer service thing. It goes a long way. So we're going to kind of talk about those things, but I want to start with this, and GA set it up really well. As a BD consultant for over a decade now, I am very often surprised when some of my clients will just kind of randomly say events are such a waste of time and money. And I hear that. I actually hear it come out of their mouths, and I'm just always kind of curious why they say that, right? And then I go to trade shows, conferences, events, et cetera, and I see what is here on the screen. These are pictures I took from one of the recent events I went to here in San Diego. And what I saw was very disappointing. So I was pretty sad. A lot of booths were empty. I know people are there because there's a coffee mug, that somebody was there, but that booth is empty. And there was a couple of those. And then the other thing I saw a lot, I have a dozen pictures of this, is people literally just looking at their phone. Not only just looking at their phone, but literally hunched down in a little shell, like a protective shell to keep everyone away from them, as in, I am not interested. And that signals, do not come talk to me. I don't want to, I don't care. Even if that's not true, that's the perception one will take if that's what they see, right? So when people say, events are such a waste of time and money, I'm like, well, what are you actually doing at this event? Are you following the process that's going to lead to contacts and maybe new business? And so we got to stop right now and think when we're going to an event, first barrier is my smartphone and my sense of I'm not comfortable talking to people really kind of holding me back. The dynamics and social interactions have changed because of smartphones. We are very dependent on that little machine, but it's also sometimes like a security blanket and a protection mode. But those dynamics don't apply to networking. We still have to network the way we've been doing it forever, which is show up, smile, look your best, have conversations, ask good questions, and then follow up and keep that relationship going so that it leads to something. And so that's what GA and I do a lot of the time. Like it's our job to kind of let's see. See the Morgan, you there?
We can hear you now. You froze for a second. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm on the right side now. Challenges and common mistakes. What do I see when I go to these events? Because I'm always looking. I see people, attendees, people who just registered to the event, they show up and then they walk in and then they just start talking to whoever they run into, right? Friends and acquaintances, people they know, people they already have like relationship and partnerships with. And maybe they walk around, go look for someone that they might be interested, maybe a government representative, and then they go to the happy hour, leave. And then when they get home, they're already looking at emails for what they missed, what needs to be done, what happens next. And then they don't follow up with any of these people. Or the other scenario is you decided to pay a booth at this event. You and your team go and you all set up, you go and you sit behind the table and you wait for people to come up to your booth and ask you something. And you're just sitting there waiting. And if nobody approaches you, then you really didn't have conversations. And then you pick up your booth and leave. And also, you didn't follow up with anybody because I see that a lot. So what is happening here when we see that? Well, people aren't proactively leveraging the event as an opportunity to build new relationships or identify potential new partnerships. And so they're kind of leaving opportunities at the trade show or conference room floor because they don't have a plan. They don't have a process and they don't really have goals for this event. And one of the things that GA's company or consulting firm does really well, and I agree with it, is that there is a process to building relationships. If you follow the process, it's very natural. It doesn't need you to be some sort of like social engineering, extroverted guru. You just have to follow the process. And if you trust the process and do it, it will lead you to new relationships, new contacts, and these opportunities for growth. So what happens when you don't follow the process, you don't have goals? Well, you really are wasting your time and money in an event because you're just showing up and you're going to see if it goes well or not. That's a waste of time and money. So the point here for this slide is you have to put some work into it to see results. It's kind of like going to the gym and like doing very light and then leaving. No, you have to have some goals and you have to have like, this is leg day and this is how much weight I need to get to. All of those kinds of things, if you put in the work, lead to results. So next slide, please. If possible. Yeah, okay. So there's that aspect, right? For events, it's kind of like you're already feeling the, I don't want to talk to people. I don't know exactly what to say, this and that. And then there's the other side of events can also be very overwhelming. Time's running out, use around the corner time to pay attention to this. You have to pay for a booth if you decide to have one, and then you have to plan for the booth coverage and all that. That starts to sound like money that you need to spend. You need to plan for the marketing campaign. You need to let people know you're going to this event. You need to kind of promote that, right? Again, time and maybe some money to do that. And then you start thinking about what kind of fantastic swag are we going to have at this? More money for that. You need to set up meetings so that you have people to see when you're there, time. And then obviously register people, plan for travel, accommodations, all of those things. Just if you really are just thinking about it, can be super overwhelming. And then you're just kind of winging it and getting it all done, but what did it actually lead to, right? And then after the event, if you don't think about that, then how do you know you're getting your ROI for that event? That money that GA talked about, 10 grand, easy if you're going to get a booth and have people man it, because you have to take into account their time, right? And so when this all happens and you move on to everything else, by next year, do you really remember if it was worth going to the event or not? That's why if you follow the process at the end, we recommend always to measure the outcome of the event so that you know if it's worth it or not. So we're going to talk about all these things, but I definitely want to acknowledge that this can start to feel like it's a lot, right? It's a lot to do. I don't have the time. It's going to cost me some money. And therefore the mentality does default to events are a waste of time and money, but they're really not. If you do it right, they are one of the easiest ways to generate revenue for your company. If you go to the next slide, please. It's a little bit of a delay there, but we'll get to it. Maybe not. I'll keep talking. Okay, so my next slide is how you think about events is crucial. So with all the things that I talked about, I want everybody to know that event attendance is BD work. You have to see it that way, and it should include a plan, a process, and a goal in order to maximize your ROI. So you have to move as a company, and as a leader of a company, you have to move beyond showing up and see how it goes, and do a little bit of work to really have or execute an event plan that has measurable outcomes. And for that, we have the 4-step process that we're going to talk about for you to follow so that you can actually execute and then measure and see what that ROI looks like for the event. With that, I would skip to the next slide, which I don't know if we're there. Can you hear me, GA? Let me just kind of check in with you.
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. And I saw the slides were having technical issues. Okay. So I'm going to keep talking and then hopefully we can get the slides back. But so everybody's going to have to look at me and pay attention. All right. So one of the things that we really need to clarify, what is the goal of a conference or attending and going to a booth? A lot of people have the wrong idea. It's, well, I'm going to go and kind of make sure people know my company and that I'm the owner and that what we do, et cetera, et cetera. If you have a booth, we are going to get a ton of traffic and people are going to walk by and stop and ask us what we do. Or, we're going to lure people in with all our fantastic swag. And don't get me wrong, I love swag. I really do. And we're going to meet this person who's going to literally say, I've been looking for your company all my life, and we're going to give you a contract because you do exactly what we need. No, that's not what really happens in the event, right? GA, I'm sure you agree with that. So it's the combination of all these things, but with one goal really is, so you get the booth, you have the conversations, you really look for meetings that we call qualified meetings. So you're meeting with someone who actually would benefit your company, either to team, collaborate, or get a contract from, and you identify an opportunity. Once you do all of that, then you generate revenue. It doesn't happen immediately. It's not going to happen at the event. It's not going to happen a month after the event. It might happen in a year or two, but at that event is the moment when you can establish a genuine relationship with someone and build a partnership that can lead to that. So that's really important. Events should be seen as revenue drivers, not just a line item expense. Does that make sense? And with Rebecca or Morgan, I was at slide 9 right there and there. So if you want to, I see the slides might be coming back online.
And if you put it back up,
So,
I'm able to navigate the slides too. So if you put it back up, I can drive it.
oh, okay, great. Would that be useful? Ah, I see them coming back up.
Yeah, Teams is really thinking hard about letting us share this the way we want to today. Sorry, guys. I appreciate your patience.
No worries.
As I say, as a Norrals coach, the show must go on.
It must go on. You guys
With
are doing
or without
great.
slides or a script. Yeah, so I'm going to keep going because I don't want people to kind of, wait for the slides. So anyway, really, revenue drivers. It should not just be a line item expense like, oh, we went to this event with so much money. Okay, so think about, yes, what it costs to go to the event, but think about what you're trying to achieve out of that. If you're thinking about a potential partnership that would lead to, becoming even a sub in a contract in sometime in the future, that could be what, $500,000, $1 million, maybe more. You don't know. So you really have to compare it to that. So with that, I will move on to slide 10 here, if possible. So how do we achieve the goal, which is to generate revenue? The process in itself is very simple and straightforward. For events, just think about 3 general buckets of things that have to be done in order to do that. It's the pre-work before the event, it's the preparation, it's the attendance, so what you actually do while you're at the event, and it's the follow-up. So to me, this is one of the most crucial components, and it's the one that most people don't do. But after the event is over, it is not over for you. You still have work to do. So within those 3 general, kind of buckets of actions, there's actually the 4 phases of it. We start by creating a plan about the event. What do we want to get out of it? What kind of people, who we want to meet, companies, et cetera, et cetera. What is the real goal for this event? And then we have to prepare for that. There is actual work that needs to be done, including research, putting things together, really putting some thought into it, so that when you attend you're not winging it. You really are showing up with an executable plan that, yes, of course, you might have to throw out the window and adjust. Once you get there, things really change, but at least you know what you're shooting for. And then you go and execute that almost like a game, right? Like, I want to meet at 5 companies, or I want to meet with 5 vendors, et cetera, et cetera. When you get to that, that's what you should be shooting for. And then once the event is over and you've met all those people, you've gotten those contacts, and you've said, we should talk, let's talk next week. You get back to your office and you set it up so that you actually follow up, immediately after the event, a few weeks, a few months later, but you follow up. And then if you made any promises or agreements, I'll send you a white paper, for example. You actually have to send them that white paper, right? It's the follow-up that says, this person is serious and I'm willing to put a little bit of work into it if they do. You don't put in that work, people will move on because they have other things to do, right? So preparation, execution, follow up, and measure really lead to ROI. That's the main concept and idea that we're talking about here. And I know it's been hard, Rebecca, but is it possible to move to the next slide? Maybe, maybe not. Yes, okay, yay. All right, what does that look like? It's very simple, but I really want you to understand the key takeaway for events is that the real work is in the preparation and the follow-up. So the pre-work and the follow-up take up most of your time and budget. And event attendance is the easiest part, and it's the shortest, and it requires just a slither of what it really takes to get that ROI. Okay, with that, next slide, please, if possible. All right, so the 4-phase blueprint explained. Like I said, pre-work, attendance, follow-up. But within that, there's 2 little extra things. When we said plan, you actually need to have a strategy here. And like I said, events are part of your BD work. It really is how you create those networks and contacts that lead and generate more business for you. So you have to sit down and ask yourself some questions. Who do I want to meet with? Why? Why would I want to meet with them? What's the benefit for my company? So in this phase, we talk about event intelligence, which is just research to prepare and to support your strategy. So the right preparation does fuel success for game day. The next phase is to polish and practice your pitch. So when you're planning, you should also be practicing what you're going to say and do. A lot of times, I don't know, GA, maybe you've heard this or not, but people show up and their pitches are pretty bad. Like they don't really know what their company does, how they do it, how long it takes. And if you start asking them questions, they don't really give you the right answers. So you need to prepare your team and yourself to show up to any event with a really solid and concise pitch and a really impactful message about what you do so that people pay attention and take you seriously, right? I really feel bad when I hear awkward pitches, and I hear those a lot. So this is where you need to practice. Phase 3 is event execution. Okay, you did all the pre-work, you're ready to go, you show up at the event. You really got to show up with the best, I always say, the most professional version of your authentic self. So you show up, you know your stuff, you know your pitches, you got your swag, you got everything. And you put the phone down and you're there shaking hands, talking to people, smiling, and really listening to what they're saying their needs are. And then you can talk about how you can help. So this is engaging with the right prospects and leave a lasting impression, right? People want to do business with people they like and they think are serious and professional. That's what we're trying to do at these events. And then last but not least is the post-event follow-up that drives to actions. So you meet this person, it goes great, you have that wonderful conversation. Now you got to turn that into something tangible. So you go back and you use your CRM tools, you talk to your team, you do assign some follow-ups, and you follow up. And if they don't answer, you follow up again. And you make sure to remind that person that you met them at a FCA West or whatever event and say, we talked about this and, so nice to meet you. It was great to know about your kids. I'd love to have another opportunity to talk to you. Just don't set it aside and forget it. You keep that relationship alive however you can so that it leads to something in the future. So those are the 5-phase blueprint explained. With that,
so let's put some meat on the bones here, shall we?
Yeah.
So let's talk about phase 1 and the event intelligence and the engagement strategy. So moving on to the next slide, and here's where you can take your pens out and start taking some copious notes. And the key to this whole thing is the 3 to 4 months prior to the event. It seems like a long time, but all of a sudden, bam, the event's upon you. And have you done the research? Have you done the work to set yourself and your team up for success? So have you analyzed the agenda, the themes of the event, and the key sessions that you want to make sure that you attend or your team attends? Who are the high-profile attendees? And then we start to map out our competitors' presence and position. Where are they going to be? What are they going to be saying? And then really start figuring out who's our target audience. Do we know what our key persona looks like that we're going to be going after? Do we know the client, the prospects, the influencers that we need to see? Can we create that persona with the pain points? What's the issues that our clients are seeing? And we'll talk about those issues here in a few moments. We talk about how to get them engaged. because I like to demonstrate what I know, not by telling how great my company is, but by demonstrating I know the issues they're facing. And then what's that event pre-planned marketing? Are you getting out there with the emails, LinkedIn's, and actually picking up the phone and making phone calls? It's amazing how many people are afraid to do that. And we're working at a company. We got 36 appointments via phone prior to the 3-day event. And this is working with a company that works with attorneys, and they're able to get through to the attorneys and get the meetings set up. So moving on, another part of phase one is really win before you arrive. To the next slide here. So that's knowing what are your success metrics. Is it going to be number of appointments, number of conversations? Taking a look at that. How are we going to know? Is it the ROI that clients will get? What's our target hit list? Who do we want to go after? And are we setting up meetings before we even get there? Then this is key. That booth schedule. Who's going to be manning the booth throughout the open booth period? So that if I want to go to see a 2:00 speaker, somebody have the booth when I'm gone. And who we call them host hunters. Your hosts are people who are going to be there who kind of greet people. Your hunters are the ones who want to get into deep conversations. And your host will be part of this triangle offense I'll talk about in a minute. Just know who's going to be there and when. And then do you have that 30-second elevator pitch dialed in so you can communicate effectively with clarity who you are, what you do, and more importantly, why do clients choose to work with you? So after we've done our phase one, we've done the marketing, we've set the appointments, picked the phone up. We know we have the schedule and we have our elevator pitch that we practice. We move on to phase number 2. And that's the sales enablement and pitch refinement. And here we move on to, oh, shoot, I skipped a slide there. My bad. You got your target hit list. Who's our dream accounts, our high probability buyers, our strategic partners, and our industry influencers. And it's about really understanding who you're going after before you ever get there. Now, let's move on to phase 2 if we can. So it's about communicating. And are those conversations going to be your competitive advantage? And we talk about practice. Communication is a verbal sport. And anybody who's involved in sports knows we have to practice it. And maybe you might be the owner of the company. You might be the director of sales, and you can communicate really effectively. And you sit there and tell your team, hey, here's how I'd communicate if I were you. And they say, okay, got it. That's what I call verbal knowledge. Verbal knowledge is knowing what to say, but how to go from verbal knowledge to verbal skill. And verbal skills, we can actually say it out loud. I don't know about you, but sometimes, like before this program, I was kind of rehearsing in my mind. I was going to kick today off. And in my mind, it was beautiful. I spoke slowly and clearly. You were able to understand. You laughed at all the right moments. But something happens with what I say in my mind. I don't know about you, but sometimes what comes out of my mouth is 2 totally different things. So go from verbal knowledge to verbal skill. It actually takes practice out loud. So finally, you have to have enough reps, enough repetition in communicating to get to verbal mastery. And that's where you can say the right thing at the right time under pressure. There you are at a conference, you're at a happy hour, you are in your booth, you're walking around, all of a sudden you start talking to a high potential prospect. Can you say the right thing at the right time under pressure in that moment to create the relationship? So how to hook them in the first 10 seconds. I'd love to do that by talking about the issues we solve. I'm going to sit there and say, hey, let me tell you about my company. Saying, hey, we specialize in X. And some of the issues we see our clients are faced with are A, B, and C. And this is a great way to go about helping your prospects move from a sales conversation into a consultant conversation. When they go, oh my gosh, I had the same issues too. How are you solving them? And then what effective questions are you going to ask? Then I call it the triangle offense. Because it's very difficult to be there, having a conversation, asking questions, and able to take good notes. So the triangle offense is you, your associate, and the prospect. You're doing the talking, you're asking the questions. The associate's right there taking copious notes. Then you have the prospect. And it's so important. Think about it. Has it happened to you where you're at the conference, you talk to somebody, and that conversation, they give you their business card, or you take down their information electronically, go, oh, I totally remember that conversation. You're into the next conversation immediately after that. You get back to your office and you look at that business card, you look at the electronic information, like, holy crap, who was that person? I totally forget that conversation. The faintest ink is stronger than the best memory. So you got to run that triangle offense. You've got to have somebody taking notes. Or if you're there by yourself, can you take copious notes quickly, give you enough information to actually be able to have a customized, tailored response and email when you get back to your office? Can you communicate your value proposition in 90 seconds or less? So it's all about being able to practice, communicate effectively. Now, I don't know any other way to do it besides repetition and getting really, really good at it. One part process, one part personality. I don't believe in scripts. Then you have the right process, then you put your personality into it. Let's take a look at, really standardizing your message. Talk about yourself succinctly. So what's your company's story? What's your domain expertise? What we specialize in? And we can't just do everything, because people want somebody who specializes in, because every one of your prospects think that their company, their situation is totally different and unique. So you got to be able to sit there and be able to talk about their situation and ask enough questions so they sit there and say, oh my gosh, Alexa gets me. So what's your strength and differentiators? Do you have success stories that you can share? A success story is, who was the client? What was their issue? What product or service did they use to solve the issue? And how did they, the company, benefit from it? So client, issue, solution, benefit is a great outline to tell a success story. And then, do you have your inventory of your evidence? Evidence, those can be your CPARs, your copies, relevant past performance summaries, your capabilities, your white papers. Do you have those at the ready? So now you got your standard ID message down, then we can move on to tailoring your message. And again, here's where tailoring is key. It's about, do you have large companies, government entities? How do you communicate effectively to each one of these effectively and have industry-specific guidance around it? So a slightly different approach to some data, tailoring the message so it becomes relevant to them. All right. I don't know anyone who likes generic material that isn't relevant to their needs. So think about, what are some of the issues you're faced with and how can you solve those issues for your clients? So let's move on to phase 3. You're at the event. How do you execute, and what's your on-site strategy? So the pre-event briefing. Are you having a quick huddle? Do we have the schedule set up? Do we have the booth merchandised correctly? Do we have assigned roles and responsibilities? And then are we doing an end of the day check-in? Talk about what went well, so we can do it again tomorrow. What were any growth opportunities that we are faced with that we have to make adjustments, mid-course adjustments to? What wins did we have? And maybe we got to adjust our messaging a little bit. Let's practice that right now. Then we can get into really diving in at the event. And the merchandising in the booth, your swag's your currency. Make them earn it. Don't just give it away. Make them give you some information. Scan their badge. Answer some questions. Get that 30 to 90-second credibility statement done. Have the discovery questions. Have your success stories ready. I call this a why clients work with us 3x3. And this is a great tool. It's 3 things said 3 different times. So at the end of a conversation, I always sit there and say, you know what, I bet you're asking yourself at the end of the day, why should you choose R3? You know what? Gosh, my clients tell me all the time, it comes down to three reasons why. It's our customization, it's our experience, and it's the sales playbooks that we provide for our clients. And so then I communicate those. On the right-hand side, that's what I call a conversation stack. That is a really simple stack of memory device to carry on a conversation with somebody I've never met. That doormat with the word name on it, ask their name. House, where do you live? Family, I walk in the house, there's a family portrait of the Kardashians. This is, again, a memory device. So I remember to ask about their family. Coming out of the chimney of that house is a big, huge, magical white work glove. What do you do for work? On the freeway finger of that work glove is a starter's pistol like they use in a cross-country meet. The starter's pistol, how do you get started in that job? Shooting out of it's not a bullet, but it's actually a Southwest airplane. And that's just I can ask, hey, do you travel? The wings of that plane are two Wilson tennis rackets. What do you like to do for fun? The tail of the plane is a goalpost, like a football goalpost. That's what are some of your goals. And then on top of the goalpost is two beautiful bouquets of flowers. And that's just to say something nice as I end the conversation. So this is just an example of a tool that we teach people. So how do you have this conversation with somebody you've never met? People have never been taught how to do that. And this conversation stack, I can have a 20-minute conversation with somebody I've never met before just by going through the conversation stack. So you've had some great meetings. You got some great information. You're running your triangle offense beautifully. You've told a great story. You got people who want to meet with you. You've had a great event. Now the hard work starts. And that's phase 4, the post-event and follow-up. So let's take a look at what happens in your post-event and follow-up. You identify the hot leads and follow-up priorities. You make sure you capture immediate impressions, significant wins, any surprises and or challenges. And we'll show you a little bit of an engagement scorecard. If you don't create scorecards for your events, you need to start creating these scorecards. But more importantly, what's that follow-up strategy? And we'll talk a little bit more detail about this follow-up strategy. And that's where the ROI and the impact comes in. But are you able to analyze it, compare your outcomes to pre-event goals, evaluate your pipeline growth, brand visibility, and strategic wins you got, capture lessons learned for future events? So are you doing your post-event recaps? They are vital. And then quick outline on outreach post-event. Day 1, I love to get a personal email out there as quick as I possibly can, and LinkedIn Connect. And that personal email, it's 2, maybe 3 sentences most. It's not a big marketing. It's, hey, it was a pleasure to meet you at the conference. I'd love talking to you about pickleball. Can't wait to connect. Talk to you soon. Then you send the LinkedIn campaign connection. And then week 1, then you start the value-based message and you put in a calendar link. We found that 42% more engagement comes and meetings are set when you have your Calendly link or your team's calendar. So make sure you get the calendar link that they can go right to it and sign up and get a message, a meeting on the calendar. Also, again, pick up the phone, actually call them. Weeks 2 to 4, maybe send an article or a case study. Then also another voice call. Invite them to a webinar or event. So you should have this all logged in, all dialed in. What's the cadence and your touch points that you're going to be used to do? And here's where your CRM tool comes into play beautifully. Next slide. The goal of the CRM tool is simple. Improve relationships. That's why it's called a customer relationship manager. Make sure you're getting events in there. Track who you met, when, where, what was said and agreed upon. Track the conversations. All right. And set reminders and ticklers to follow up. Then make sure you do what you agree to do. And then there is this scorecard. And we can send you a copy of the scorecard here. And here's the reason we started bringing the scorecard out is you have a great event. Next year, the email comes to you about being having a booth at the event. You're like, oh my gosh, was that a good event or not? It was a pretty good event. Hey, what do you think? Should we go to the event or not? And you're making decisions without any real basis or out any information. So some of the key metrics, we talked about, was the booth placement good? All right. Was the traffic good? Were the attendants truly our ICP, our ideal client persona? Were we able to get the list of attendees? That's key. A lot of times you can't get the list. I think it's important. Then, where were ample opportunities to network throughout the event? Our brand exposure was good. All right, overall score. Then you got your ROI, number of leads generated, total cost for the event, revenue generated, ROI. So we can customize this, but I'd love to make sure that we have a scorecard, because your ROI, that is your revenue minus the total cost divided by the total conference cost. And I want to make sure that you're getting the ROI that you want by putting the time, the energy, and the effort into it. So some key metrics, I can take a look at, how many conversations do we have? From those, how many appointments did we set, and how much revenue was generated? Alexis.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that. You really have to, when you're thinking about measuring the event, there's other things that you can consider, because maybe you won't see an immediate result, but sometimes if for GovCon and defense contractors, if you go to the event and they really had important material for you to understand industry days, pipelines and things like that, was it informational enough for you to become, more knowledgeable in your industry? Did it really help people really recognize your company name and what you do? If it doesn't lead immediately to, a partnership or a contract, but at least, do people know your company better than they did last year? Those are the kinds of things that are really important. And is the event relevant to what you actually sell, right? Sometimes people go to an event and it's a great event, but nobody there is going to buy what you sell. So you got to kind of measure those things too. You thought it would, but maybe it didn't. Those are kinds of things you should track in that scorecard, I think, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So how can we help? Alexis, talk to them about how we can help.
So I know that we had technical issues and you weren't able to catch up and maybe follow with the slides or see the slides when we were talking about the thing. So don't worry about it. We'll send you the slides. You'll have this recording so you can kind of come back and listen to what we were saying. We're also going to give you a copy of the scorecard just to get you started on that, but you can build on it. But all these things, like I said at the beginning, sound like a lot of work, right? And you might say, I'm a small company, my people are on billable projects, I can't have them do all these things. The best we can do is just show up. And so this is where consulting firms like Trident and R3 can really come in and help you out. So every phase that we talked about has actual taskers that need to get done. Research requires people researching, right? So if you don't have the time to do it, then you really are kind of risking the ROI in the event. It really does help to consider bringing somebody in to help you do that. We, R3, Trident, are good at this stuff. We know how to do it. We know how to do it quickly. So we can come in and help you with whatever you need. So if you're thinking, for example, of like, what can you do? It's all customizable. We always have conversations with our, potential client, because sometimes people come in and asking for one thing that they think they need. And then we really quickly know, like, actually, the truth is you need this other thing. And that's either smaller, bigger, more complex, whatever it is. But we have those conversations and then we agree on how we can best get you there, get you prepped. A lot of times nowadays, and it could be, you have a great company with some great tech, but because you are an engineer, you might not be the best at pitching what your company does, right? Somebody like GA, somebody like me can come in and coach you and really point out the things that can help you say what you need to say succinctly or clearly, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll go through the slides a little bit here if we can still go through the slides and jump into some Q&A. But each of these phases you'll see has deliverables. So things we can do to help you, like put briefs together, lists, profiles. We can help you build a call plan or engagement plan. For phase 2, we can really help you practice your pitch. We really are good as orals coaches helping people really understand what they need to say, how they need to say it. And we can definitely do that. For sales enablement and pitch refinement, you know, we got playbooks, we got trackers, we can give you all sorts of templates to just kind of guide you and make sure that you really are kind of prepared and ready to go. And then for post-event, we can just kind of guide you on how to build that scorecard, how to do an action plan or an AAR. I call it after action review. And then you can always have like a small conversation of, let's take a look at that. And as a third party outside unbiased, you know, reviewer, we can say, is that really our ROI or not? And then, you know, we kind of decide how that works into your BD strategy or not. Anyway, all those things, if you're ever at a conference and you need, like, we do offer concierge support. So it's kind of like phone a friend, like, oh my God, I got a meeting with Bob, the CEO of whatever. And you did not expect that. You don't know who he is or exactly what he's doing, but you kind of get a sense that it's an important meeting. You can call us up and we will go find the information we need and like feed it to you via text so that you're prepared for that meeting. If it's happening at the Starbucks in the conference center, right? Like there is ways to help you out. So just know that that's there available to you if you ever need it. And GA and Trident will always be here to help you kind of improve your game for events and trade shows. So with that, I know we're a little short, but we do have some time to do some Q&A. I'm going to hand that over to GA because he does this thing called Think, Write, Share. And it's actually a way better process for Q&A. So GA, I'm just going to hand it over to you and you can explain it.
Love it. All right. So if you could take 30 seconds, and I'm sure you got questions. I'm sure the question you have, someone else has that question too. So there should be a little QA function up top. And if you could just type in, 30 seconds, just type in a question. And again, I guarantee you have questions. And if you don't, the question you have, I guarantee other people have too. So under the Q&A, 30 seconds right now, type in your question and then we'll share it and we'll answer it and get you guys on your way. 20 seconds left.
Becca, Morgan, if you guys caught some questions, if you had, if we're able to do it, let us know.
Everybody's being shy today.
I know.
No one's asking any questions. This is your opportunity to talk to an expert. Somebody's been there, done that, seen the issues.
Oh, there's a good comment, GA. I'm going to bring it up that was in the chat. And this happens a lot. The whole, like, people walk into a conference and it feels like everybody already knows everybody. And so it's like cliquish. And so it's kind of like awkward for you to like insert yourself in that conversation. But I noticed that when that happens, then you're not you're not really networking, right? Because you feel uncomfortable like an outsider. What do you do for that? I know what I do. I just flop myself in there and say something funny. But what do you do in those, or what do you recommend in those kinds of situations?
Yeah. So what I do is I will listen for a moment or two. And then if I can, I formulate a relevant question to the conversation. I ask a question. And when I ask that question, usually it invites them in because they're going to start talking to me to answer my question.
Yeah.
And so almost always I'll sit there and listen for a few minutes. Oh my God, that's really fascinating. You know, a quick question for you. What are your thoughts on this? And that oftentimes I can break the ice by being able to do that. The other is that using that conversation stack, which is nothing but questions to ask. Sometimes I'll do that too. I'll start with the conversation stack.
Yeah.
And actually, GA, if you could elaborate a little bit on that, we did have a question in the Q&A. If you have another example of conversation stack that you could share.
Okay, so again, the conversation stack is just a memory device. And so it's doormat, house, family portrait, work glove, starter's pistol, airline, tennis racket, goalpost, flowers. So it reminds me that the doormat, the word name on it reminds me to ask, hey, so tell me about your name. So, I'm G.A. You are, oh, it's a pleasure to meet you, Jim. Then after that, I go from the door, then I go to the, hey, so Jim, where are you from? That's the house. And he says, oh, I'm from, Columbus, Ohio. My gosh, I could ask what I call double click questions. Where are you from is a kickoff question. Oh, you're from Columbus. Great. How long have you lived in Columbus? What do you like best about living in Columbus? Are you a the Ohio State football fan? So I can start asking different questions about that. Then I can move on. If I need to move on to the next thing, great. That's the family portrait. Is your family live in Columbus, or are they scattered somewhere else? Do you have family? You have wife, kids? So I can start asking questions. So that conversation stack is just a great way for me to have a conversation with somebody I've never met, but I now have questions at the ready to ask. That's really how I use that.
Having questions at the ready. One question you always ask GA.
What do you do for fun?
Which is the question that always trumps me is, what do you do for fun? And then I'm like, what do I do for fun? And then I was like, oh my God, I'm not a fun person. I don't know what to answer. But it's a really good question, and it's simple and basic. And then you can think about it. And I remember the last time you asked it to me, I was like, well, I'm a vinyl record collector. So for fun, I go hunt for records, like something like that. And so I totally had not thought about that. But
my double click question is, so great. What's your favorite group? Do you go to concerts very often? I can talk about that. The key is not to make it about me. Oh my God, I love music. I actually am the head usher at Humphreys down here. What I see happen is one question, two questions that get all about themselves. No, it's the bounce back question. Oh my gosh, create the connection. Oh my God, I love live music. Do you also like live music besides vinyl? I bounce it back to them.
And
I create the connection and bounce it back.
And that's how you insert yourself in any kind of like cliquish looking circle, is asking questions about them. And so don't be afraid. I know it feels awkward, but get comfortable with the uncomfortable and go do it anyway. Then you're going to have a lot of fun with it. It's kind of like a game. I know we're coming close to time. I don't know if there were any other questions or anything else to address. Rebecca, Morgan, did you guys see anything else?
Nope, nothing else in the chat or Q&A.
All right. So it's been an honor and a pleasure.
GA, thank you so much for joining us. I know we went. I know we had some technical difficulties. Apologies for that, but we did get a lot of good content out there. We'll send you everything so that you can review it. And please, 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 don't be scared of events. Go do it. Have a plan. Measure it out. And I promise you, it will lead to business growth and revenue. With that, I'll see you at FCA West. If you're there, please stop and say hello. I always like to say hi to people. And I'll see you all around. Thanks again, GA.
Thank you much.